Hi Amy, welcome to Fat Bruce's in Ripon. Today I'm going to be making a tomato basil soup for you. We're going to start, I've got some celery already diced up here, and then I'm just going to dice up some carrots here. We're going to actually saute those real slow so they sweat up in some olive oil. So I'm just going to get these diced up. Then I've got some carrots. Let those sweat up a little bit here. I'm going to put those in my pot here. I'm going to turn my burner on to a medium heat here. I'm going to add some olive oil. Got a 1/4 cup of olive oil in here. And I've got my onion that I'm going to dice up. This doesn't have to be a real fine dice. It can be a medium dice is fine, because we're going to cook it until it sweats up and kind of falls apart a little bit in the soup. So it doesn't have to be anything real pretty here. We're after more of the flavor to kind of accent the tomatoes and the basil, just to kind of give it some more vegetable flavor is what we're at here. And those are going to end up being chunks right in the soup. While that's cooking, I'm going to go ahead and get my basil ready here. This is some really nice fresh basil that we're just going to chop up. I've taken most of the stems off of it here because we don't want the stems in our soup. So I've got a little bit of flour. I'm going to actually pull a few of these off of here. This smells really good here. So this should give it a nice flavor. And we're not going to add the basil now, though. That's going to be about the last thing we put in the soup, because we don't want that to get too cooked in there. Let's run out of flour out of here. We just want a nice, simple chop here. Doesn't need to be anything real fancy again. Again, we're just kind of working the basil so that we can get some flavor out of it. And then it's not, so they're not big chunks in the soup. Oh, it looks like our carrots, onions, and celeries are just about done here. So I'm going to add 3 cloves of minced garlic here. And we're just going to cook that for about a minute. We don't want to cook it too long with the garlic, otherwise it'll burn. We don't want it to burn. We just want to get just a little bit of that flavor out of there. Now we're going to add a 1/4 cup of all-purpose flour in there. And what we're going to do is we're just making a little roux in the bottom of this. Going to let that cook a little bit here. Turn it down a little bit so she doesn't burn. Okay, we're going to add 1 quart of water to this now. And we're going to use a whip, kind of get that worked in here. We'll turn that heat back up. You just want to whip this up, just kind of incorporate that flour. Just going to bring that up to a simmer. Now this isn't going to thicken all the way up here. But we'll thicken up a little bit, and then the tomatoes are going to thicken it up the rest of the way. Yeah, that's simmered here for about 5 minutes, and it's thickened up just a little bit. What we're going to do now is we're going to add 1 can of crushed tomatoes in puree. We're just going to add that into there. And we're going to add 1 teaspoon, I should say, of salt into there, and then a 1/2 teaspoon of white pepper. And we're going to mix that up a little bit here. Well, that's looking good now. Come together a little bit. Now we're going to let that come back to a boil. Yeah, that looks like that's come to a nice simmer here. It's thickened up real nice now. You can tell it looks really good. Now the last couple steps we have here is we're going to add just a little bit of sugar. And I add a little bit of sugar to this because sometimes the tomatoes are a little bit bitter. And I find if I just add just a teeny bit of regular granulated sugar, it really sweetens it up just a little bit, just enough to take that bite of the tomato off there. And then we've got that fresh chopped basil we chopped earlier, and we're just going to kind of fold that in here. Yeah, that's looking good. And you don't need to cook that basil in there real long. We're just going to let that kind of get in there. Boy, it smells good now too. And then we've got some heavy whipping cream. You got to have a little heavy cream in here. So we'll put about a half a cup in this pot right here. That'll be just enough to kind of smooth it out, give it a little bit more body. And that's looking really good now. Now we'll just dish up some like we serve here. We'll get a bowl here. And here's our creamy tomato basil that we serve here at Fat Bruce's. So come try it here with our whole wheat sourdough breadstick and herb cream cheese.